Today is Monday, August 22nd. What to know now about Russia's Ukraine invasion nearly 6 months in, and the latest help Ukraine is getting from the U.S. Also, heavy rains flooded popular national parks in the U.S. We'll tell you where the flood risk is headed next. And how a once powerful Republican is hoping to influence future elections. Plus, the fast food that may have gotten dozens of Americans sick. Why Apple users are being told to update their devices right away, and how much it'll cost you to book a hotel for the Super Bowl before the football season even starts. Those stories and more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Nearly 6 months into the war, and Russia is stepping up its threats against Ukraine. The latest warnings come in response to a car bombing over the weekend. A prominent ally of Russian President Putin was killed when her SUV exploded on a highway just west of Moscow. She was a Russian TV commentator, and her father is an influential political theorist who's often called Putin's brain. Some think he was the one who was actually being targeted. At this point, the Ukrainian government says it was not behind this killing. Still, angry Russians are reacting by calling for attacks on Ukrainian government buildings. And a headline on one Russian TV channel said, quote, "Kyiv will shudder." So government employees will be working remotely this weekend. Despite that recent bombing in Russia, most of the damage is still happening within Ukraine's borders. And one Ukrainian economist says at this point, Ukraine's losses have reached nearly $114 billion. And it's believed thousands of people on both sides have been killed since this war began. Still, the U.S. and other allies are trying to give Ukraine a leg up. The U.S. just announced another military aid package for Ukraine, this one worth $775 million. It includes surveillance drones and, for the first time, vehicles that can resist mines. Plus, there are new communication systems, missiles, artillery, and a lot more. Well, this new package means the U.S. government has contributed $10.6 billion to Ukraine in security assistance alone since the invasion first started. The big concern in the southwestern U.S. has gone from severe drought to severe flooding, and some national parks are seeing the worst of it. Over the weekend, a flash flood swept hikers off their feet at the popular Zion National Park in Utah. First responders were able to rescue most of them, but as of this morning, one person is still considered missing, and parts of the park are still closed. Separately, about 200 people were trapped at Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico on Saturday. They were stuck for more than 9 hours because flooded roads made it impossible for them to leave. Some people apparently tried to drive through the floods anyway and ended up having to be rescued. Thankfully, no one was reportedly hurt. Of course, national parks aren't the only places being impacted. Several rivers and streams in New Mexico have nearly reached historic flood levels not seen in almost 60 years. In Nevada, recent storms have given the Las Vegas metro area its wettest monsoon season in 10 years. Now, this week, heavy rains are expected to move into the southern plains and lower Mississippi River Valley. And there's now a flash flooding risk for that part of the country, too. Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney might have been voted out of office, but she's still trying to influence future elections. She said she's thinking about running for president in 2024. And either way, she's created a new political organization. It's dedicated to going up against candidates who still doubt the results of the last presidential election. Remember, former President Trump and many congressional candidates he supports say the 2020 election was stolen. Although it is important to note that state election officials, Trump's Justice Department, and several courts have all said there's no evidence of widespread fraud. Well, Congresswoman Cheney told ABC News her new political action committee called the Great Task will make sure so-called election deniers are not elected. She also said she'll make a decision about a 2024 presidential run in the coming months. As that interview aired, former President Trump posted about Cheney on the platform Truth Social, saying no one wants to hear from her. He's also expected to run for president again in 2024. And although Trump hasn't officially announced a run yet, he did say over the weekend that he thinks the recent FBI raid at his home will help his chances. To be continued. The federal government is once again warning airlines over a recent uptick in flight delays and cancellations. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg wrote a letter to several of the top airlines' CEOs. It said, at the very least, they need to make sure passengers who are delayed for 3 hours or longer get free meals, and those who are stranded overnight should get a place to stay. at least when the issue is caused by something within the airline's control. It might be different if the issue is something like weather. Still, Buttigieg says he wants to make sure passengers know what they are owed in each situation. He says the Transportation Department is working on a new website that will lay out each airline's policies in case of cancellations or delays. That will launch sometime in the next couple of weeks before Labor Day weekend, which is another time that's expected to be pretty chaotic. Transportation Department data shows that in the first half of this year, 24% of flights were delayed. More than 3% were canceled. Airlines blame staffing shortages and a boom in demand. But the federal government says airlines are still at fault for overscheduling flights. More news is coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor, Indeed. Business success stories often start with someone who had a great idea and then found great people to help them. If you're hoping to make headlines, you need to build a great team. You need Indeed. Well, Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. I appreciate that there are tools and a proven system right there at your fingertips. For example, Indeed assessments can give you a window into how candidates will be on the job. U.S. Indeed data found that on average, applicants who scored highly proficient or higher on the reliability assessment were nearly 8 times more likely to consistently attend work. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Gas prices are still dropping, and Americans might end up changing their driving habits because of it. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular gas is $3.90. That's a far cry from the record national average of $5.02 back in June. And since the typical American household uses about 90 gallons of gas a month, CNN points out the drop in prices from the record high to now equals a savings of almost $100 a month. One AAA spokesperson says this could lead to more drivers hitting the road again, since a lot of people cut back when things got way too expensive. Analysts say gas prices are down now in part because that demand has dropped, but also because oil costs less. So what's next? Well, typically gas prices do get lower in September because winter gas is cheaper to manufacture. That said, peak hurricane season is also around the corner, and if a big storm hits oil production in the Gulf, we could see another spike too. The CDC is now investigating an E. coli outbreak linked to Wendys fast food. More than 36 people got sick and at least 10 people ended up in the hospital. Thankfully, there are no reports of anyone dying. At this point, the CDC hasn't said for sure what's causing this outbreak, but the agency does say most of those who got sick ate sandwiches with romaine lettuce at Wendy's restaurants in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Illnesses were reported from late July through at least August 8th. Wendy's said in a statement it's fully cooperating with health authorities, and as a precaution, it's removing romaine from its sandwiches in those areas. Wendy's also clarified that it uses a different type of romaine lettuce for salads. Right now, the CDC is not advising people to avoid eating at Wendy's altogether and says there's no evidence romaine lettuce is affected anywhere else. If you have an iPhone, iPad, or Mac, Apple suggests you take their latest update seriously and download it ASAP. Security updates that were released last week are meant to close 2 vulnerabilities. Without getting into all the technical aspects of this, experts say these security issues could essentially let an attacker take complete control of your device if it's not updated. The updates are available for the iPhone 6s and later, as well as a variety of both iPads and Mac computers. The world's second largest cinema chain is struggling. The Wall Street Journal reports the company that owns Regal Cinemas is planning to file for bankruptcy. Cineworld said recently, there just aren't enough people coming to theaters, despite a gradual improvement since many reopened last year. The company specifically blamed a limited film slate. There were a few blockbusters earlier this summer, but otherwise theaters aren't really expecting any big hits for a while. That's because of a variety of factors, like movies facing COVID-19 related production delays and some films going straight to streaming. For now, Cineworld is only saying it's looking into strategic options to survive the current market conditions, but it stressed theaters are still open for business as usual. Of course, this issue affects other movie theater chains as well. Media data company Comscore found that the U.S. box office is still bringing in nearly 30% less money in 2022 so far as compared to before the pandemic. This NFL season hasn't even started yet, but football fans might already want to start thinking about the Super Bowl. This year, it's being played in Glendale, Arizona, which is about a 20-minute drive from Phoenix. And already, hotels near the stadium are mostly sold out. Of course, you don't have to stay right next to the stadium, since the Phoenix metro area has more than 69,000 hotel options. But even then, local news reports say the ones with availability for Super Bowl weekend are going for $1,000 to $1,500 a night. And the prices are only expected to go up as we get closer to game day on February 12th. Football fans can also look to short-term rentals like those on Airbnb and Vrbo. The cost depends on the space, but so far, the rates are comparable to hotel prices. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a message from our sponsor. If you're like my family, you like to pore over lists of reviews before deciding on where to book a reservation for brunch or dinner. So why not do the same when you're booking a doctor's appointment? With ZocDoc, you can see real, verified patient reviews to help find the right doctor in your network and in your neighborhood. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Yep, that's the other key here. You filter your search to only show doctors that take your insurance, which is such a time saver. And on ZocDoc, you can find every specialist under the sun. Whether you're trying to straighten those teeth, fix an achy back, get a mole checked out, or anything else, ZocDoc has you covered. Plus, ZocDoc's mobile app is as easy as reserving that brunch spot online or getting delivery to your house. Search, find, and book doctors with a few taps. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Money Monday. It seems Americans are staying generous despite food prices going up. A new report from restaurant software management company Toast found diners tipped, on average, 19.6% while going out to eat and almost 17% at a quick service spot. Those percentages are roughly the same as this time last year, even though food is typically more expensive right now. So higher prices mean higher tip amounts. The average tip in dollars is up 10% from a year ago. Now, the one area where tips are going down is for carryout and delivery. That has dropped to 14.5% per order since peaking at more than 16% at the start of the pandemic. As for who tips the best, at least for when dining out, Hoosiers take that honor. The report found people in Indiana tip the most at full-service restaurants, averaging about 21%, followed by West Virginia, Ohio, Delaware, and Kentucky. On the other end, Californians have the worst tipping average at 17.5%. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We will be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.